Hello, back with another vocal video. This time it's Antithesis from Patsy Rdnbrg's The Need for Words book. Don't need a in there. Book. A lot of the exercises Rdnbrg is running through here seem to be very much about rhetoric, about verbal strategies. I always hear about, people taking rhetoric classes, and it really is this sort of thing of how to speak, how to communicate, the various tools you can use. And a lot of these exercises seem to be ways of going, oh, did you think about how there's the thought, the space of thought in something, the action words in something. And this is just another one of these strategies. She starts off, in rhetoric, antithesis means a verbal construction in which words are set in opposition but balanced, e.g., brave day sunk in hideous night. The first part of the statement is the thesis, and the second, the antithesis. Both parts are in balanced tension. If you discover there are opposites or opposition in a line of text, allow the conflict to swing you from one pole to the other. So, brave day sunk in hideous night. You can kind of see the little hinge there, or the pivot point. I think in the exercises she talks about kind of a teeter-totter, where you're like, okay, that side, this side. And it isn't seem to be something where, because at first I was thinking about it as just like it's opposites, it's got to be negatives, but it's like the opposing qualities and conflicts that antithesis is exploring. So there's positive and negative, there's pain, joy, there's love, hate, there's, in that example, day and night, that kind of idea. Now, the exercise that she's got for us for this one is you need at least 3 people to do this properly. So obviously, I'm not going to do it properly. And she gives an example of text. She encourages people to find other texts and try them out as well. I'm going to use this example, and I did find a very short little one here, which I think, just flipping through the Rattlebag, the book I'm reading out loud at the moment in my break from Orlando Furioso, that I found another one that might work. Now, the one that she uses is the description of the contrarious passions in a lover by Thomas Wyatt. And what she wants you to do is, find a text, and then notice straight through the center of this speech, there's a wall of commas or brief passes, the opposition in each line on either side of these, which is, I think, is probably, she's picked a very direct, easy example. I think my other one maybe is a little less more murky. Maybe it's an incorrect poem to use, but I think it also gets to that whole thing of antithesis, thesis, and antithesis. We're looking for that kind of these shifting points in the text, because it gives you something else to kind of hang on to. And oftentimes it is marked with a comma. Sometimes it is not. So you designate one speaker to speak it aloud to the group. The remaining group is then divided in half, and they move to each side of the room, and the speaker remains in the middle, and then each half takes up the cause of one side or the other, physically becoming the personification of that need. As the speaker speaks, each side repeats and reinforces aloud the quality they are supporting. Any word the group hears that reminds them of their purpose can be repeated. Sometimes puns will explode together as all voices join in. The speaker must be free to move between the two groups as the tug of war wages for the speaker's attention. Throughout the exercise, the speaker will have been tossed around physically and emotionally, depending on the strength of the opposing needs. And if the antithesis is good and remains balanced, the entire group feels as if they've been riding an emotional and intellectual seesaw. The brilliance of the antithesis in the brilliance of antithesis in the human condition is its exposure to the two sides of any emotions. There is paradox. And so in the Renaissance, this balance was one of the great understandings of the human condition. We are not one-sided. There's a dark and there's light in all of us, and there's tension between our two sides. We have a thinking side and a feeling side, and actually and I'm sure Patsy Rdnbrg would agree, things are even more complicated than that. I think probably within this, you could have like divisions all the way down to make that kind of the wonderful, rich conflictedness of life. So I can't do any of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read out first this description of the contrarious passions in a lover by Thomas Wyatt, and try and kind of act out the two sides that I feel as I'm going. And then I'll try it with just a random, well, not semi-random poem that I've just selected from the book that I think I saw some of these divisions, this kind of activity of language, of thought in a thing. So let's start off with the Thomas Wyatt poem. I find no peace, but all my war is done. I fear and hope. I burn and freeze like ice. I fly aloft, yet I cannot rise. And naught have I, and all the world I seize on. That locks nor looseth, holdeth me in prison. And hold me not, yet I can scape no wise. Nor letteth me live, nor die at my devise. Yet of death it give me occasion. Without eye I see, without tongue I plain. I wish to perish, yet I ask for health. I love another, and I hate myself. I feed me in sorrow, and I laugh in all my pain. And lo, thus displeaseth me both death and life. And my delight is causer of this strife. So, yeah, it's interesting as you read it to think about this thesis antithesis thing of going like, oh, you're going to get jerked all around all over the place. You're going to go seesawing back and forth, back and forth. It's like, it's good. It captures that kind of that tumult of emotion, of feelings that, and lo, thus displeaseth me both death and life. And my delight is causer of this strife. It's like, oh, this love is making me miserable and happy at the same time. That kind of thing. So, this is obviously somewhere where a group exercise would be a good thing, but it does give you that idea of how writers and how I myself could actually construct some thoughts where I want to make things more complicated. I can have both peace and war, fear and hope, but burning and freezing like ice. I can fly aloft, but not rise. And I don't have anything, but all the world I seize upon. That locks nor looseth, holdeth me in prison, and hold me not. Yet I can also escape no matter what. Nor letteth me live, nor die at my devise. And yet of death it giveth me occasion, gives me that chance. Without eye I see, without tongue I plain I speak. I wish to perish, yet I ask for my health. I want to die, but I want to live. I want health, I want vitality. I love another, and I hate myself. I feed me in sorrow, and I laugh in all my pain. So I'm like, it's like, it displeases me both in death and in life. And my delight is the causer of the strife. It's like, I can see why she picked that, because it's got all those wonderful divisions in it. So that is one example. I just found something. It's by an anonymous from the Rattlebag, and it's the frog. And it's not like, it doesn't have, all those commas down the middle, but it definitely has divisions. It's more, I guess it's probably more kind of whimsical in its thing. The Frog by Anonymous. What a wonderful bird the frog are. When he sit, he stands almost. When he hop, he fly almost. He ain't got no sense hardly. He ain't got no tail hardly either. When he sit on what he ain't got almost. And that's The Frog by Anonymous. So I think I picked that just because it's got what a wonderful bird the frog are. So we got that kind of like, there's a surprise in the sentence. It's like, frog isn't a bird. When he sit, he stand almost. It's like, so he's sitting, but he's almost standing. It's like there's this kind of where when he hop, he fly almost. It's like these kind of it's an it's there are opposition. I think there's some oppositions here, and then we he ain't got no sense hardly. He ain't got no sense hardly. So it's like he doesn't have any sense hardly. So we kind of got that qualifier there, and he ain't got no tail hardly either. Which is like he doesn't really have a tail. He doesn't have a tail mostly. There's maybe there's the memory of a tail from when he was what do you call it? Not a zygote, when he was that earlier stage of a frog, which I've completely lost. And when he sit on what he ain't got, almost. So it's like he's sitting on what he ain't got. So he's sitting on his tail, but he doesn't have a tail, almost. So it's sort of there. I thought that was just my little kind of going through that's a thing to be alive to, is when a poem or some work is kind of working out a tension within the lines itself. It's not just saying one thing, it's saying two things and smashing them together to get something else. So that is this little section of my vocal video stuff, because I think that's something to be alive to when you are speaking to people, trying to communicate something, and maybe trying to communicate something a little bit more complicated, especially when you're talking about, as I do a lot of times, books. It's like, well, if I just say one thing, that's sort of right most of the way, but there's also this other thing. So saying it's this and this, or it's this, and smashing them together can sometimes give the listener the actual thing that you're trying to get across in a little bit more complexity. So yeah, that is that section of Patsy Rdnbrg, which I've tried to work out. Now the next section will be wit, puns, and wordplay, and we'll see how much Patsy wants us to indulge. I mean, there's always the fun of it, but also there's the overloading of it. So it'll be interesting to see what she has to say, and can you be funny? Because like being funny isn't always something that you could just do, and sometimes the most painful times is when speakers try and be funny and they're not funny at all. Like myself, I'm very serious. All right, I have been Jay. More videos later.